All right. Well, thanks, Mike and Andrew, for having us here today at the Enterprise Data Summit. Really excited to be here, and thanks again for making this session happen. So, hello, everyone. My name is Akash Garg. I'll be moderating this fireside chat today with Vishnu from Credit Karma. My quick background, I've been in technology and entrepreneurship for over the last 20 years. So I was co-founder of High Five. I worked at Twitter in the growth team. I led the driver team over at Uber, and more recently was at Afterpay, where I was CTO there. And so, yeah, really excited to have a fantastic session set up today with Vishnu, and I'll let Vishnu introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Vishnu. Thanks for having me here at the Enterprise Data Summit. I've been at Credit Karma for close to 8.5 years. I am a VP of Engineering. I lead data, AI, and systems to drive what we call as financial progress and discovery for our more than 120 million members at Credit Karma. Prior to Credit Karma, I've had multiple entrepreneurial stints. Mostly, I worked in India for close to 12 years, played various CTO roles at early stage startups in India.
Great. Excellent. So we're going to talk about leadership and specifically around data leadership and some of the learnings you've had and some of your predictions as we head into the future as we go forward. So first question really is, how do you envision the role of data leaders evolving in the next 24 months? There's been so many advancements in technology and the rapid scale of what we call data-driven decision making. How do you see this role evolving?
Yeah, first I would like to say thanks to restricting the time frame to 24 months and nothing beyond 24 months. Just the rate at which things change in the world is so crazy that beyond 24 months, if you're trying to think about it, it's really hard. And from a 24-month perspective, I think the way to really think about it is first you want to start out what business you are in and how is your business changing in the next 24 months, and then trying to understand like how you are going to be able to map what you need to be where you need to be with respect to your data strategy to meet your business needs in 24 months. So one of the things that like I was thinking about this was you're trying to set up things so that you're organizing in a way, you're operating in a way where you want to operate for tomorrow's needs with today's constraints, right? So, and the technology space with respect to data is like constantly evolving. When I remember when I joined Credit Karma like 9 years back, for the first 3 or 4 years, a lot of the problems and a lot of the technologies associated with data was just evolving. I remember I had some hands-on experience with Kafka, and that was like one of the big reasons why I actually got recruited within Credit Karma, because Credit Karma was starting to play around with Kafka at that point in time. And Kafka is now like, it's a stable product. Everybody in the world uses it. And it's like, it's a no-brainer. You just say Kafka and everybody knows what it is. It was not like that the first 3 or 4 years when I was here at Credit Karma, 2014 to 2018 or so. So a lot of the problems related to data operating at scale, a lot of the solutions for those problems were all like ensconced within like big companies and FANG. And it's over the last 3 or 4 years, what's amazing is there have been a lot of startups, there have been a lot of products that have been built out based on problems, based on people experiencing those problems at scale. And all of the solutions are available for data leaders right now at their fingertips. Now, the challenge then is, what are your business needs for the next 24 months? How are you going to pick the right mix of tools and solutions that are going to fit your business needs for the next 24 months? And you've got to decide now.
Right. I imagine it's a pretty daunting kind of task, especially with all these technologies, and people probably get inundated with lots of vendors and lots of other questions. I'm just curious for yourself, how do you, when you're making decisions around technologies to use or products to adopt, like, do you have people you go to, or how do you advise people to sort of make some of those tougher decisions? Because you may not know, hey, technology X is really going to be the thing that solves it for you. Somebody may be pitching you, but how do you really know, or how does one really find out what are those tools and what are those technologies that you want to use?
Yeah, I think there are vendors who are always pitching you. So you have to pick and choose which vendors you want to focus on, and you want to listen to them for sure. But more importantly, I think what you really need to do is like, what do you need a solution for, right? Do you have a good understanding of it? If you start with your needs, so the way I think about it is, are you trying to organize your data capabilities for efficiency? Are you trying to operationalize it for speed, or are you trying to organize it for change? Or are you trying to organize it for scale, or all of the above? So
Right.
depending on that, you want, and where you have gaps, you need to be able to constantly looking out actively for solutions, whether it's internally or externally. And externally, it's just whether like the solution, whether it can, you can easily incorporate it in your current stack, and how easy is it for you to incorporate it in your current stack. And again, do you see that solution working for the next 2, 3, 4 years within your stack? You need to have a sense of what's going to work and what's not going to work, especially in regulated organizations like ours, where we really need to be careful about how we look at our user data, how we manage our user data. We are much more careful about engaging with vendors. We're much more careful about bringing in, even setting up even POCs. And then beyond that, once the POC is working, then you're going to figure out like whether it's going to fit in your stack and whether it's actually going to deliver efficiency, speed, adaptability, or scale for you.
Great. No, that's a great note there. So shifting gears a little bit, just talking about how data, fits into the rest of the business functions and collaboration. So really, how do you see these data leaders optimizing collaboration with the other business functions?
Yeah, I think the primary advantages that I have to kind of answer this question is like I've grown with the company over here. I think when I joined, we were around a couple of hundred people. We were 100 in engineering, and then we are around 1,700, 1,800. I don't know the count right now, but the which means a lot of new business functions which were not existent, which are existing today, were not existent when I joined the company. So as new business functions got created, I got to be able to interact with them and understand what their needs are, what their constraints are, what do they want to do, how do I and my team set them up for success. So the way to think about I is that like whenever a new business function gets created, you want to go and like figure out like what do they want to achieve. You want to understand what is most valuable for them. And some of that changes over a point in time. At launch, you're going to have certain things that you need, and then over an ongoing time frame, you're going to need certain different things. As you scale, as you learn more, your needs are going to change, each of these business functions. The data leader of today needs to be in regular touch with business leaders across the company. If you don't think of yourself as a business leader, that's a mistake. You need to be in constant touch with all the other business leaders within the company. You need to know what their needs are, how are their needs changing over the next 24 months, not beyond that. And then you want to figure out how you're organizing your operational model. You want to figure out what investments that you're going to make, which maps their needs, which sets them up for success. And I think that's been, I would say, uh, kind of like if I sit down and write like highlights of my career, I would say at my Credit Karma stint so far, my highlights have been how has my team been able to help multiple business functions succeed in creating value for our members.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so, I'm just curious on the evolution of that, as these business functions were created. Was it the case that you kind of then sought out those leaders and kind of told them about what the data team does and how they can add value? Or did that then sort of switch where people came to you proactively? Or I'm curious like how that evolution happened at Credit Karma or what you've seen in the industry at large.
I think so if you want me to talk about some of the early mistakes that I had, I mean, what I told you in the previous question was things that I've learned over a period of time. My early mistakes at Credit Karma was because of my prior startup experience was not understanding that I needed to do that well. So I would
Right.
probably say the first 2 or 3 years, it's just like me operating in a silo with my team, just like because we knew what gaps and what problems that we needed to solve for a company which is already operating at scale. So there are a lot of gaps, technology gaps, capability gaps, and that we could fill by either Google Cloud or either by cloud or other vendors. So we needed to go and fill those capabilities. So I was operating within a cave for the first couple of years. It was a mistake. And then I learned over a period of time that I need to do a better job of reaching out. And then once I started reaching out, that's when people recognize, okay, there's this team out there which is building all these nice capabilities. Maybe we can use them to deliver value. And then once you are able to deliver value for a few functions, then the word gets around. And then you're going to have like people reach out and then ask you, what can you do to help us solve our problems better? And I think also over the last few years, apart from tools and solutions, there is also broad awareness of what various people can do within the company, not just engineers or data scientists or analysts, but everyone else in the company, what they can use data to achieve and make better in their own functions. And once that awareness is increased within the, it's just natural that they want to reach out and they want to understand what are the capabilities that are available within the company. And if you do not, at that point in time, if you are not proactive, your capabilities, if they don't know your capabilities, then they're probably going to go and buy solutions from outside, which then you're going to inherit and you're going to have to figure out how to work with and make sure that they're going to work for the business, right? So there are people who will end up proactively reaching out. There are people who don't proactively reach out. Then it's your job to go and do that.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen that happen before where, yeah, teams may go off and purchase a solution. And then, of course, the data team is the one sort of not managing like 4 different analytics tools and, data warehouses and whatnot. So, yeah, no, it's important, I think, for these leaders to be super visible and super kind of present at all these meetings. And I've also seen that change, I think, happen in the industry where data leaders now are really sitting at those leadership, team meetings and really meeting with those business leaders. So that's I think, been a really nice positive trend. And if I think companies haven't done that, to your point, I think they, those leaders really need to do it. So that may be a good dovetail to the next question, which is, what skill or skills do you feel will be, not just essential, but required for the data leaders of the future, by, the 2025 data leader, what is that person going to have to embody and really do extremely well?
Yeah, I think when it comes to data, what is constantly happening is we used to be in a place where you would collect data and then that data would be available for humans to process, judge, evaluate, curate, clean, and then transform into reports. And then some other set of humans will look at those reports, then come up with some decisions, and then those decisions get incorporated into the product or into how you function or how you operate your team. That's how it used to happen. But with automation, a lot of those things are getting automated away. So when a lot of those things are getting automated away, what that means is you have to make sure that you are not just investing in tools which allow a variety of business functions to use your data to deliver value, but you also need to invest in tooling which allows you to catch mistakes, because with automation, catching mistakes becomes harder. You can standardize how you catch mistakes through automation, but catching mistakes itself becomes harder. So how are you going to invest in data governance that allows you to catch mistakes in the presence of ongoing automation of where you just used to rely on human judgment and human knowledge and human experience? Now, all of that is getting encoded into best practices and tools and systems, but those best practices and tools and systems might not completely fit what your business needs, what your user needs, what your regulatory constraints need. You need to be figure out like how to invest in the right governance so that you're able to catch those mistakes. And then the second part of it is that maybe I'll just like repeating something from one of the past answers is how are you effectively identifying the right gaps and solving for them? And then prioritizing for the right gaps at the right time just it's really hard. Like I was mentioning earlier, are you organizing yourselves for efficiency, for speed, for adaptability, or for scale, or all of the above? If you're trying to do all of the above, then you're not really prioritizing at various points in time. You need to organize for different things. In the current world, I think a lot of us are organizing for efficiency. How can you operate, manage your costs better? How can you deliver the same value or more value with the same budgets? So you need to be able to understand what is your current situation that you're in. And then you need to be able to map or change your strategy to fit the situation that you're in.
Right. Makes sense. And then kind of, as you think about, the future, obviously with the rapid changing landscape, with data tooling, AI, all these other things that are kind of, descending upon us at a really rapid rate, is there a specific challenge or opportunity that, you anticipate the data leaders will really need to grapple with, or maybe one of each that you sort of just comes to mind as you think about the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think as the value that people create from data keeps increasing and more people start sharing stories about how they've created value with data, what happens is there's a proliferation of data which is getting collected or bought or transformed. And then there is a proliferation of tools that you're going to use to store, compute, transform, secure, and all of the above. So when you have all of these variety of data tools, variety of data sources, variety of usage situations, what I think is getting really hard to do is lineage of data. How do you know where this data came from? How do you know who is using this data for what purposes? If you do not know that, you cannot really change anything about any of these things. All your systems, all your tools, all your processes, how you're using the data, you can't change anything. You change even a single thing in a single place, everything else breaks in other places. So in my head, trying to make sure that you have a strong data lineage policy and systems, and you are able to make it work in the presence of ongoing addition of tools, ongoing addition of data sources, ongoing addition of teams which are using the data, that I think is a big challenge.
Right, and that also does that kind of also tie into like data governance from a GDPR or kind of provenance perspective? Because I feel like that's another area where companies just really it's very hard, right? Because data may come from the EU country, but then it gets mixed into your data with the US. And I think there have been some recent lawsuits from Meta and others who've mingled purposely or maybe not purposely or whatever. But I'm curious, is that sort of also tied in with what you're mentioning there with lineage?
Absolutely right. I think there is a lot more data that we use today for AI. And when we use the data for AI, we really want to make sure that we are solving our member problems in the right way. And our focus is on if we solve our member problems in the right way, if you start from that posture, then you're going to be able to fit in with a lot of the regulations. A lot of the regulators, what they really want to do is they want to clarify what you're doing, how you're doing, and are you doing it for the benefit of the users? Are you doing it for your own benefit? So if you start, I think at Credit Karma, I've had an amazing benefit of having a strong mission-driven company. And with that mission-driven company, how we use our data to do what has always been in our internal regulations are really hard, which allows us to easily operate to external regulations that come from the governments, which means that it's easy for us to fulfill those regulations. It's more a process of us making sure that we have the right tools in place to do auditing, the right tools in place to support other teams. Again, it's like another use of data, right? Auditing is like another use of data in my head. So you just need to figure out like how to support one more team better so that they can make sure that we are following the regulations in the right way. And if in case there is something that we catch, then they are going to help us and give us that feedback, because feedback is important for us to fix things that we might not be aware of. But starting from the mission allows us to make sure that we are able to hit our regulations well.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a really, I think, great piece of advice for other data leaders out there who are trying to struggling with this problem. I think starting with the customer and the mission, I think is a really nice way of kind of laying that out. So, as you think about, let's say folks who are, entering college or maybe, just starting off their career in data or in the data field, what advice do you give them? Obviously they're inundated with, lots of change and, how do you sort of, give advice to your younger self or to the existing students today?
Yeah, I think my first answer to that is like, we're all students, we're all learning. I think the first advice really is that like, there's no end to learning. You have to just keep learning all the time, especially with the changes that we're all facing in our current world. You have to keep learning. The I think for me, the most important thing has been going after challenging problems, finding challenging problems that you have a passion to solve for. Go after that, and then in the process of solving those challenging problems, you're going to figure out what you need to learn. How you learn, what you learn changes based on the problem and where you are and where the world is at that point of time. But if you start with challenging problems, then it's automatically going to help you find the right things to learn. There is enough resources out there that you can go and use, but start with a problem, make sure it's challenging, make sure it's helping you grow. Then you find the resources that are going to, whether it's people or courses or books or whatever it is, or podcasts, whatever it is, you're going to find those resources. Resources are easy and plenty. It's more about finding the right problems that you want to go and tackle. That's more important.
Great. No, thank you for that. And so, I know we're coming to an end in our session pretty soon. Anything else that we didn't cover, or anything else you think you would want to kind of share with the group here, just about data leadership or, rapidly changing environments that we didn't already cover?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I will say is, like, there is a lot of uncertainty in today's world, and there is a lot of changes that are happening. My strong suggestion is to stay patient, keep watching how these changes are unfolding and how all of these uncertainties are playing out. These uncertainties might seem more than it was in the previous year, but put yourself in your shoes. In the previous year, you probably thought the same the last year, and you dealt with last year. So you're going to figure out how to deal with this year as well. You have it in you to deal with this year as well.
Excellent. Well, great. Well, thank you again, Vishnu, for the time and the conversation. I really enjoyed that. And again, yeah, thanks to Mike and Andrew for hosting us here today at the summit. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the sessions that we'll have. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.